Hi everyone, it's Amy. I've come to share some other little lessons. For those of you who don't know, I come from an anthropology background, social sciences, social work, and now I'm a mental health practitioner. So many ways to do life, so many lessons from life. Today I'd like to talk about nothing being absolute, as everything is in flux. Now, this is something that I've come to understand on a very deep level. Life is always changing, and the idea that anything is the same, will always be the same, has always been a certain way, that's a little bit of an illusion. We can never state that anything is absolute, for everything is changing. Now, I know in times in my life I've stated that I really think a thing and I really deeply believe in this thing, and then I've matured and learnt other things along the way, and then I've shifted how I've felt about that. I know when I was younger, my vessel that I'm in, my physique is a certain way, and I might have taken that for granted, and that changes. I know cities that I've lived in or towns that I've lived in. I come to rely on them for being the same, but you go back a few years after not being there, and they change as well. I actually remember my mother talking about how much she loved France, but how France would never be the same again. No, France will never be the same again. Nothing stays the same. Everything is changing. And that's a good thing, because whilst everything is changing, we never have to stay stuck for too long in any one situation. So where all things change, all things are in flux, that means that situations that don't feel comfortable, or the way that things are that don't feel great, that's not likely to last. I mean, we can see the rise and fall of empires. Everyone always thinks of Rome. We can also think of Egypt. We can think of other powerhouses. Well, I'm sure at the time they thought that their power was forever, but it wasn't. And as we look back through time, we can see that that is the only constant, is change. That is the only thing we can rely upon, is change. So bringing that into your consciousness and having that at the forefront of your experience of life is a bit of a game changer, because you stop getting stuck in things. You stop feeling like, this is how I feel, it's going to feel like this forever. Well, no, this is how you feel right now, and it's not going to last forever. The same is true when you're feeling something amazing. Sometimes we're like, yes, this is excellent. We'll savor that, because that too will pass. The ephemeral nature of life is such a beautiful thing. If you think about the trees and the leaves that grow, the leaves that fall, the leaves that then nourish the tree's roots for more to grow, for more to fall, and the cycle continues. There's versions of that going on in all things around us, in ourselves, even in the cells in our body, constantly changing, constantly growing. I had a very wise auntie. Her name was Stella. She was a beautiful, wise woman, and she would say, "This too shall pass." And I know that wasn't just from her, but for me, that always goes back to my beautiful Auntie Stella. This too shall pass. So if it's good, that's great, but this too shall pass. If it's bad, that's unfortunate, but this too shall pass. So with all things, we must understand that they're temporary in nature, and that nothing lasts forever. And that is actually a good thing. That's such a wonderful thing. It means we get to hold things lightly. It means we get to not take things too seriously. It means that we fall into a space of acceptance about the changing nature of life. The flux, the ephemeral, the seasons, even just the way our emotions can change is happening on an inner level. What do they say about emotions? Give it 3 minutes and it's likely to pass, unless you start attaching to it and writing a story around it. But generally, if you have an emotion, it will come and it will go. If you have a thought, it will come and it will go. Yeah, the people in our lives, some of them come and go pretty quickly. Other ones, they stay for a while, but eventually they will go. That is just the way of life, and that's okay. The ephemeral nature of all things means that we don't ever need to feel too stuck for too long. I always think of a river, and the river is always going to be flowing. There's always going to be a river flowing to the ocean. The ocean's always going to be swaying, the waves lapping on the shores. Everything is always in flux. When I look to nature for answers around different problems I'm trying to solve in my mind, that is something that always comes to me, is that nothing is forever. Everything is changing. And you can see it from the beautiful caves that are being built from water flowing through that were once dirt and stone and rock, to the different valleys, the different mountains, all of it. Even one of my favorite things, which is waterfalls, those things, they're constantly changing. The water changes the rock. As the rock changes, it changes the way the water flows. I mean, as humans, we've built cities around these types of things. I love it when, cities are built around rivers, because rivers are meant to bend and change. And then townships get, shocked by the floods. But I mean, the river itself is a reminder that things are always flowing and changing. So to try and concrete around it and keep it the same is actually fighting against what's natural. And so the river of our life is always flowing and changing. Always. So with everything being in flux, this is such a wonderful thing to embrace. For nothing lasts forever. So we can endure the uncomfortable bits, knowing that it won't last forever. And we can embrace and savor the awesome bits, knowing that it won't last forever. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it helped just a little bit.